Hello and welcome to the 39th episode of When I Was Your Age, a podcast celebrating the careers, callings, and creativity of some friends of mine. I'm your host, Roland Parker, and as always, it is a joy, a pleasure, and a treat to have you here. Today's guest is Charlie Sharbel, one of the newer additions to the coaching staff down at Vestavia Hills High School. So I'm really excited to talk with him about all things running and coaching and everything in that way. Before we get started with Charlie, though, make sure that you follow us on Instagram at WIWYA Pod. And thank you guys so much for the support. We're currently at 1,468 followers on Instagram, which I really appreciate all the love there. And I appreciate that you guys are checking back in. It's been a while, and I'm sorry. I took a break for the summer, and I didn't really say anything about it. But we're going to move on. I think that that's probably how I'll approach things in the future, is take a little bit of time to cool off from it and then get back into it almost on like a seasonal basis. But if you found your way here for the first time, consider giving us a follow, and you can do that on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Amazon Podcasts. But if you are more in the visual game, you want to watch the episodes, you can do that on YouTube and on Spotify. You can open up, there's the in-browser player there. Links for all of those things are available in the link tree in the Instagram bio, and I think that catches us up. So we'll go ahead and bring Charlie into the stream. Charlie, how's it going with you, man? What's been going on?
We're good over here. Been doing a lot of running. I'm excited to get on the podcast, man. I've listened to it a handful of times, so I'm glad to. I think I listened to it maybe a year ago at some point, and I was like, I hope I give Roland a reason to get on the podcast one day. So I think
Nice.
I've gotten into running enough to finally earn my way on here.
Love it, man. That's awesome. I was going to ask you this because I ran into this person playing pickup ultimate frisbee. Do you have a cousin that works at Winnetasca named Joseph or Joshua? I'd say it was a J name, and I was struggling to remember.
Joseph was right. Yes, that's
nice.
Right.
Yeah, that's so funny. Okay, tell me about it.
Looks a little bit like me. He's actually same grade, so I think I'm 7 months older than him.
Okay, yeah.
But yeah, he went to Spain Park High School, big into ultimate frisbee. He's like the camp director there. We were like on staff there together, and we were leaders and campers and all. But now he's like in charge of the whole place, so he's running the show over there. It's awesome.
Dude, that's awesome. I love that. Well, I'm a big camp person. I worked at Winnetasca for 1 week exactly. And so I didn't go there as a camper, but my parents were like, especially like when I was getting closer to like senior year of high school, they were like, hey, like if you want to pursue camp stuff as a career, like you need to go to like different camps besides just like your home base one.
Yeah.
So like that, I went and did that. And it was cool. It was a cool experience because it was a much bigger camp than like I was used to. Because the sessions like at Camp Arrowwood where I went, it's like 50, 60 kids versus like, 100, 200, like in the session. So it was pretty cool.
That's awesome. I always kind of wish I loved Camp Winnetasca through and through, but I always wish I'd tried something different just because that was my summer camp. So that's all I really knew. And I saw movies and heard other stories, but never ventured. So that's cool.
I get it. I love it. I think that there's always just a lot of very specific, special memories with camp. I love Wet Hot America in Summer. If you've seen that movie, so funny. And like I think that it made it much funnier having worked in camps. Just like I think of like specifically the one scene they like go into town and they're like going through like all of these different crazy scenes that's like elevating each time of like they're like smoking a cig and then and they're like
the next scene ends with them like shooting up or something terrible. And then they go back to camp and all's chill again.
So they're like, oh, it's so good to get away from camp even just for an hour. It's so good.
One of the better scenes in that movie.
Yeah, it's so funny. And I feel like it's one that not a lot of people have seen too, but it's one of my favorites. All right, so if you guys are not already, make sure that you follow Charlie on Instagram. There's the at in the stream there, and we'll throw it in the description as well. Should we follow you on Strava as well? Keep up with the runs and stuff there.
I definitely post more consistently on Strava, so probably
Nice.
once or more a day. So yeah, I need to update my Instagram, but Strava is where to follow me too.
Nice. Yeah. Love it. So all right, growing up, did you ever have any like specific or unique to you like usernames or handles that people would kind of know you by?
Sharb is like just it being my last name, half my last name. I've gotten called Sharb a lot as my nickname, but also my brother gets that. So it's like I got Lil Sharb for a little while, which maybe is my rap name.
Nice.
But yeah, Sharb was always Sharb was always my nickname. So I'd make that my username often.
Nice. I like that. I've been stuck on like just first name period last name for a while, but I always remember like the people who had like the really unique names that they like people would often say their Instagram names to them like out loud, like in person. And there was a certain, I don't know, I always thought that was a little bit funny.
Yeah. There are often times I met people that I was like, I knew them by their Instagram name, but not by their name. I was like, wait, that's not your last name? And I was like, no, that's my middle name. And
100%.
So,
totally been there. Yeah. I'm starting to recognize people too by like not their maiden, like people who have gotten married and stuff there. I'm like recognizing them by like not their maiden name. And I'm like trying to remember if I'm telling a story like, oh, we would have known them as, and I'm like completely drawing a blank. Well, I've got some get to know you questions. We like to ask these to everybody. If you don't care, and we'll get started with those.
Yeah, let's hear it.
All right. So where are you from and where do you currently live?
I am from Birmingham, Alabama, Vestavia Hills specifically. And I'm back here. I live in Vestavia, not with my parents, but probably 8 minutes away. So I'm right here at home. I went down to Auburn for 4.5 years, and now I'm back here. So, yeah.
Nice. How do you like being close to the parents like that?
It's nice. Just like everybody will pretend at least that they want to get away from their parents, and I kind of get that. But at the same time, like family's family, you got to love them. Part of me has always like been curious or wished I had ventured elsewhere, like maybe lived somewhere out west or just somewhere different. But like at the same time, I'm 27, so there's still time for that. And
sure.
I think at the end of the day, like life is so much about relationships that so many people I know and love are here in Birmingham. So, I can travel all the time, but being here at home has been really awesome. So just, furthering a lot of relationships that I've had my whole life.
Yeah, 100%. Love that. Tell me, what do you do?
Currently, I'm big into my running world. So I've been working at the Track Shack, which is like a local running shop here in Birmingham. We've got 3 locations. I've been working there for the past 1.5 years now. So that's my day-to-day retail 10 to 6. So I have a plenty of time in the morning to get done what I need to get done. But yeah, that's what I've been doing.
Nice. Well, love that. And we'll talk a little more too about the new coaching adventure as well. I'm excited to learn and hear about that. Yeah. How old are you? Age being a big theme of the podcast for us.
I am 26. I turned 27 this coming Sunday. So I think I actually might have accidentally said I was 27, but I'm not yet. I turned 27 this Sunday. So birthday week.
Nice.
I'm excited.
Well, happy early birthday. Very, very excited for you. Love that. What piece of media are you currently enjoying? So book, podcast, music, TV show. What are you kind of diving into right now?
Yeah. Podcast and music, big for me. I think I've heard people say this on your podcast where like, I want to read more books, but like I start so many and let it sit on my shelf. So that's like a habit I'm trying to build, but I definitely don't. When I do, I'm like a big self-help reader. So, people will tell me read fantasy and you'll actually enjoy it, but I just sometimes feel like I'm wasting time there. But so podcast, big into that. Music, I listen to a very wide variety. Not a big TV show watcher. I like movies here and there, but not a whole lot of TV shows for me. So
nice. Well, do you listen to music when you run, or do you kind of just let it breathe and think on your own?
that's the funny question is I don't listen to music when I run. However, like anytime outside of running, I'm listening to music. And to some people that sounds insane, but it really is, like you mentioned, just kind of let your head breathe. And like force running to me is like, yeah, like a forced meditation in a way. And so I would listen to music and then I'd find myself like not thinking Red Hot Chili Peppers is the mood. So I'm trying to switch to something different and I'm trying to set a vibe and then my AirPods slipping out and, I'm having to carry my phone. It just became so much like to take away from the distressor of the run that I was like, I don't need this.
Hmm.
I don't need the music. I listen to it plenty outside sometimes. And not to mention like just being able to hear cars around you. Like I'm running roads
Oh,
often. So like, peeping my shoulder when I'm wearing earbuds got annoying. So I was like, I just need to know where I am, what my surroundings are, and just kind of let my mind meditate for a little bit. So
no-
yeah.
nice. Safety being a number one priority as well. Pretty good reason there too. But I like the presence of mind
Yeah.
there too. I've been listening to like audiobooks and podcasts, not so much music really when I run because I'm kind of I don't know. I guess I need to build up the mental fortitude to just like be present and embrace some of the suckier elements of running.
Mm-hmm.
But but yeah, I love to like listen to a story or listen to somebody. I don't know, some interesting like
Yeah.
topic like while I'm out running too. It's been kind of a good too. Um, what is something you'd consider a luxurious necessity, kind of blurring the lines between something that's a need and a want? What do you kind of think of there?
Yeah. Okay. I've heard you say these before. Like a cup of coffee would be like the casual one, but I think that's just a necessity, not even luxurious. You got to have coffee or some kind of caffeine. My luxurious necessity as a runner, and I think anybody could use this, is a massage gun, like a
Mm,
Theragun. Um, like of course, running as much as I do, I have sore muscles all the time. Stuff hurts, and that's just like your own little personal masseuse. It's not quite as good as that, but like that's as good as it gets. And anytime friends are over or like family members are around and they see it, they grab it and they put it wherever's sore, whatever hurts. And I'm like, everybody should have this at home because like that lower back pain and that quad pain or that whatever is bugging you, that thing saves you like 90% of the time. So,
oh yeah, hundred
massage gun
percent.
for me is something that like is a luxurious necessity. I think everybody should have one. But yeah, that's my big go-to.
No, I feel that. Is there a particular area of your legs that you find yourself kind of spending the most time on, like when in soreness?
Probably my calves. And that's
Okay,
where I feel like it has the biggest impact. Um, on my like quads and like IT bands and stuff, it helps, but I usually like to use like a roller for that, like a foam roller.
sure.
So I find myself just like sitting there, just letting it run on my calf, up and down my calf, nonstop. So,
Yeah,
uh, yeah.
I feel that. My calves don't get like crazy like sore per se, but like I just feel like in like soleus, like close to the heel area, it
Mhm.
gets just crazy like tight,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
faster like than anything else. So I definitely relate to that there. Um, do you have any bits that you're doing, running jokes with yourself or with close friends or significant other? Tell me about those.
I definitely have a bit, and it's with close friends or family members or girlfriend. It's so I have like a old beat up Toyota Highlander from like 2004. So it's like, it's like a girlier version of a Forerunner in a way, and it's 20 years old. So I for some reason I always just like float this ego and I call it my truck, and it's like just as a full-on joke. So like I will go out of my way just to call it a truck. Like my brother will be coming over to my house. I'll be like, "Yeah, just you're welcome to park behind my truck in the driveway," and he knows exactly why I'm doing that, and he just laughs and stuff. I'll refer to the trunk of my car as like the bed, and it's just maybe I don't mean to like poke fun at people, but I feel like sometimes men will do that as like a masculinity thing. Like maybe they drive like a Tahoe or a Forerunner or something like that. That's like an SUV, but it's not a truck, and they call it their truck. So I think the irony of me calling my like mom car, 20-year-old mom car, a truck is just, I find it funny, and I keep doing it. So
yeah, you would have gotten a crack out of me for if you ever said that. Like, hey, do you guys like? Am I good? Like, do you need me to move my truck like where I'm parked or anything? Yeah,
exactly.
That's so funny. Gonna pocket that. I drive an Outback, so
there you go.
I might have to slide that in somewhere. See if we can get some giggles.
That's perfect.
All right. So this next question I love getting to ask because we get to compile all the answers into a playlist. But if you had the opportunity to replace the national anthem with any song on your playlist, any song that you kind of always find yourself listening to, what song would that be? And tell me a little bit about that.
Okay. I've heard you ask this question, and I meant to come prepared with an answer. But let me think on this. So something to replace the national anthem, and are we talking in like a serious note, like, everybody's still reverend, or like, I don't know, maybe just something
either direction, honestly, because I've gotten answers both ways. One of the answers that I go back to on like the serious reverend side for that is one of my professors in college said "This Land Is Your Land" by Woody Guthrie. I was that's a good actual answer. I would like appreciate that as the anthem.
Yeah.
I feel like it would go well. And then also in the same vein, on this podcast, I've heard some pretty funny answers like "Shake It" by Metro Station would be a hilarious one to see. But yeah, I would go with any direction. I will not censor you in the prompt here. Whatever you say is going on the playlist.
Okay. Let's see. You've had a lot of podcasts. I'm sure someone's already said "Freebird," right?
That's it. We've gotten it, but if that's what you feel, it 100% would be your answer.
Epic. Freebird would be epic, but I think I want something with a long guitar solo, and I'm a big Pink Floyd fan. So I'm going to say "Time." Let's do "Time" by Pink Floyd.
Excellent.
I think that would be epic.
I'm going to get it added to the playlist right now.
Because it's one of those that's like pretty deep too. Like just about the whole message behind time, and just like, yeah, I don't know. I love Pink Floyd. Awesome guitar solo. Yeah.
Excellent.
It's a deep hitter.
Nice. Love that. Well, if you want to hear Charlie's answer and everybody else's answers that we've had on the pod so far, make sure that you go follow the National Anthem playlist. You can find the link in the link tree in the Instagram bio. I think that let me see the way that I have it written out on Spotify in this playlist. It's like WIWYA, and then it's like rah, like for the like the eagle screech, and then it's got the eagle and the American flag thing there. So you can go find that and give a listen to. I've been throwing that playlist on if I'm going like back and forth between the gyms sometimes, just because I have some pretty safe answers for listening like with the girls and stuff. So it's that's been fun. Sometimes they get bored of whatever podcast that I'm listening to. So we gotta give them a beat or give them a tune.
Yeah, something to fire them up.
Yeah. And last question is, how do we know each other?
We know each other from high school. You were actually, I'm not even going to say high school, it was middle school technically. But like we went to school together. So I think you were an 8th grade cross country runner when I joined in 7th grade. And I'd say that's where we originally met. I know your brother was a grade below me, so you're a family I kept up with. And then you did track and did hurdles and field events. And I was in distance for a little while. And then I ended up quitting mid high school, which is all part of the story. So, I feel like ever since I quit track, we really haven't had much, in touch. I've seen you through social media and got to, keep up with what you're doing with life. But yeah, we haven't had a nice conversation in quite some time.
Yeah. So, well, that's one of the really big benefits of doing this is getting to reconnect in that way. So I love that. Well, let's dive into your story, kind of where you're at now. So you have just kind of stepped into this this new coaching role. Can you tell me a little bit about it?
Yeah. So I'm helping coach the distance kids at Vestavia. So currently, we're in cross country season. Season's about to start up. First races in like a week and a half, and then come track season, if plans go as they should, I'll be coaching like more of a middle distance, 400, 800 meters, but still helping out with mile and 2 mile kids. So yeah, right now cross country season. Lot of kids. I think 67 on the team total. So
Wow.
coaching both boys and girls.
That's just cross country?
Yeah, just cross.
Wow.
So
That feels big.
we never had those numbers, I don't think. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like maybe we were closer than I'm thinking, but like it feels so much bigger.
67 seems like a lot.
Yeah.
But so yeah, a lot of committed kids. It's really fun, and it feels very full circle because this kind of came quick out of nowhere. And like I mentioned earlier, I was a talented runner in high school, but I just had no drive or commitment and ended up quitting in the middle of a good career. And so there's like just, I don't regret everything about it, but there's a lot of lingering what if questions, and just wishing I had a different work ethic as a 16, 17-year-old kid. And so now, circling back and having a way to encourage that and, help the 16, 17-year-old kid that might be struggling mentally or might be feel too much pressure of the sport or, just whatever the distractions may be, help them to learn and focus on setting a goal and achieving it and working hard at something. So that's just a lesson I think I missed with cross country and track and stuff, is just learning how to do hard things. And if you don't want to make it this sport, then go find something else to do, whether it be math team or football or, Scholars Bowl or whatever it is. Find something to work hard at. And that's the message I'm trying to circle back and push on them.
Nice. Well, I do kind of love that full circle moment for you, but I get one way that I like to frame these questions and kind of set up this portion of the episode is, how far back could you draw the line to this moment of coaching to it's like how far back could you point to say like, yeah, I feel like these moments all connect to this moment where I am right now, if that makes sense. Because I like to see how people's brains work and think about all of the different things have kind of culminated in this moment where they are in their career or just in the things that they're trying to achieve. So what do you think that point is for you?
Yeah. That's a fun way to think of it. Kind of timeline the story of what really all went into this. So, it starts probably back in middle school. Really just having a lot of success as a middle schooler. So I used to play the football, basketball, baseball, all that stuff. 7th grade came around and I was like way behind on growth spurt. So football signups were like, I just knew it wasn't a good idea. I was like, I'm going to get pummeled. So maybe I'll hit a growth spurt. I ran a quick mile in like PE, and the cross country coach came and grabbed me and was like, you gotta sign up. And so I didn't really even know the sport. Had a lot of success. 8th grade ended up running up with the high school. So that's where, it was awesome and cool. But of course, as a little kid, I start putting all this pressure on myself and expecting, having high expectations. And so, as I furthered into my high school career, I had this kind of burnout mentality, and like, I just didn't love the hard work that it took. You were on the track and cross team, and like, it wasn't the coolest thing to do in high school. You weren't like the quarterback, the star quarterback of the team being on cross country. And so that was another thing that I unfortunately cared about was, fitting in, being cool. And so like everything was telling me not to do cross country, not to do track. I just, I had different aspirations at the time. And so I just ended up falling out of the sport. And so I actually jumped over and played football my senior year. But I realized the work that it took to make that happen. And so that kind of like opened my eyes to this idea of like, just I shouldn't have wasted so much time half-assing cross country. I should have either tried there or quit and came and tried hard in football. because like, I could have had success in both if I had just tried and put in effort and just suffered some. And so that all happened. I ended up going down to Auburn. Don't play any sports in college, just joined a fraternity and enjoyed my time there for some time. I did not run. I was one of the guys who was like, I hate that sport. I'm never doing it again. So I didn't run for probably 4 or 5 years, and I would play basketball. I'd play pickup basketball or intramural football or something like that to kind of stay fit. But running was like my ex-girlfriend. It was like, I don't talk to running anymore. And so, of course, like a number of people, COVID year hits, and I end up getting a remote job, and just, would roll out of bed and get on my laptop every day. And I was like, this is not it for me. I need to start moving. And so it started with me just waking up, running 20 or 30 minutes around my neighborhood, with no, goal whatsoever. And as I was working that remote job, I just was not loving it. I was looking for other opportunities and was kind of getting back into this fitness lifestyle, running more. And so after interviewing at some other places, I just didn't really find anything I liked. And I just had always bought my shoes at the Track Shack running shop that I work at now, and knew that's a face-to-face environment and a good location. And I was like, you know what? Let me just quit what I'm doing right now, go do that, figure out that world and see where it takes me. And that's where all this running for me really took off. So I was like becoming a hobby jogger again, doing it 2 or 3 times a week. And then being around a crowd like that, people that run daily and run big mileage and run marathons and half marathons or college athletes and stuff like that. It just all of a sudden kind of sparked this fire for running again. So, last year I ran, my first half marathon. I ran I think I ran 2,400 miles on the year or something, just like got super addicted back to it. Like after hating it for years and thinking I was never going to do it again, I just, all the pressure was gone. All the reasons I used to not want to do it because it was hard, I now like kind of chose to do it. I was like, I want to challenge myself, try something hard, and find the me on the other side of this, who is the Charlie on the other side of all this that actually commits to running hard. And so, I've gotten heavily back into it. I'm training for New York Marathon which is in like 2.5 months. So I'm excited for that. That'll be my first full. So we'll see how that goes. I don't know. I'm in for a big one, but I've been doing plenty of training to get there. As long as I can stay healthy, things will be good. But that's really, so to backtrack, getting into all this running gave me kind of some credibility in the running world. There is a guy named Lars Porter who coached at Homewood back in the day. He is now a vice principal at Mountain Brook High School. So with him being a vice principal, he doesn't get to coach anymore. Still needed that coaching fix. So he runs a camp in the summertime where he hosts a bunch of high school kids, and he has some counselors come, take care of the kids, teach them, run with them, all that kind of stuff. And so he just asked me this past summer to come help him. He just needed an extra hand. And I was like, you know what? I want to get my camp fix again. I don't get to go to camp anymore. So I wanted to go to camp for a week. And it sounded like fun. We're running with a bunch of high school kids through the woods, cool dirt back roads, stuff like that. So I went out there. Vestavia's distance coach was actually a counselor there too. Mountain Brook Junior High's distance coach was there, an ex-Alabama cross-country runner. So there's just a lot of good people there. And, it by the beginning of the week, I was just there for fun and to help out. And then by the end of the week, I had those coaches both saying like, hey, I need help at my place. You seem pretty good at this, or you seem pretty fired up for it. You can just communicate with the kids well. So that's when the talks began. And I realized I could go back to my alma mater and fortunately help out in the morning where it works on my schedule. I actually, these kids are waking up and getting to practice at 6:30 a.m. and we practice from 6:30 to 8 just to get it out of the way. And a lot of them have like first period athletics, so they have time to go shower and get ready and all. But I'm practicing with them in the morning. I would be running anyways. So it's killing 2 birds with 1 stone. I'm, like I mentioned earlier, just fired up to kind of deliver a message that I wished I had as a 16, 17-year-old kid. Just, but yeah, that's really where this all started. So I kind of rambled for a moment there, but that's the timeline that I would say kind of made all this happen.
Yeah, no, that's great. Well, I love what you're saying too about like having almost like an ex relationship with running, because I had something similar. I think I would similar experience to you in a lot of ways, except for I was never very fast. So but I'm kind of finding my way back into running a little bit now. It started with like running to just try and get in a little bit better shape so that I could do this like street vault. And then like I saw a bunch of people around me who were running, you being one of them, and I was like, oh dang, that's pretty cool. Especially now that it's not like required. I want to pursue it because it's not required. So I relate to a lot of what you were saying with that, and I think that a lot of people could say the same about whatever experiences they had, if they had maybe a tumultuous relationship with the sport or other activity that they did in high school, and there's just that pressure. One thing that stuck out was the because you maybe started up with the high school in 8th grade, that kind of lended to some of the hard kind of connection to the sport. Could you tell me a little bit about what that was like? Because you were, competitive and coming up. I think there's a lot of expectations to try and meet when you've been called up in that way. So tell me what that was like.
Yeah, yeah. So, I have to credit just genetics to some extent of, I've had like 2 of my aunts were excellent runners. One of my aunt, I think, won cross country state championship like her senior year or so, just like individual state. Dad was fast, granddad was fast. So like genetics just had me fast early on. That was why I was ever good at any sport, whether it be baseball or basketball or football growing up. It was like, no matter how small I was usually quick and fast. And so, 8th grade, it felt awesome. Of course, like getting the praise of, I think I won Metro, which was like the championship in 8th grade. And then I'm running with a high school and everybody's congratulating me for it and just how cool it was. And so it felt wonderful, but it was this like, this monkey that I'd latched on my back. And now like, looking back, I can't believe I felt so much pressure, but I just like thought I had the whole world watching me to perform. And it was at this thing that I really didn't love quite at the time. I kind of missed my football fix, my baseball fix, speed being an advantage. But now that it was like, how hard can you work at being good at this? That's how good you'll be. My natural ability got me a long way. And, I would train here and there, but like, as soon as it became about, I guess, being in 8th grade and seeing the high school level, like some of these kids are just going to outwork you.
Mm-hmm.
And so, looking back, it's sad and disappointing just because I was so afraid of failure. Like, so I almost wanted this back pocket excuse of like, oh, well, I don't train that hard. And like, I almost wanted this reputation to like ripple through that, like, even if guys beat me, they'd be like, oh yeah, but like he doesn't try hard training wise, which is crazy to me because, I might as well have just like put all my chips into the basket. And it might have meant sacrificing some late nights with friends or, I don't even really know what it would have sacrificed. There were times where we were supposed to go on a run and I would just go walk in the neighborhood and come back. And it was, I think I had this renegade about myself too, where I like didn't want to have to do what everyone else was doing. And so just the pressure combined with this, like, I don't love this. I feel like I'm forced to do it. I mentioned the genetics that were a bunch of great runners, but I felt like my whole family was like just sitting there waiting to see what I was going to do. And then as soon as I started getting recruited and thinking about doing it at a collegiate level, it's a full-time job. It is morning practices, afternoon practices. They watch your diet. They want you, of course, behaving. And teenage me was like, I don't even want to get pressured into that. That terrifies me. 4 more years of like doubling down on this. So that's where I hit this panic button and I also just, I gave Coach Huber a lot more trouble than he should have than I should have out of a talented athlete. So it was funny. I actually saw him like maybe a year or 2 ago now at the track.
Really?
And like, I went up to him and said hey to him. And I was like, hey, by the way, like, I apologize for who I was like 7 years ago. And he's like, dude, you don't have to do that. Like, don't do that. You're here now. Don't worry about it. But it was just, very much like a little bit of a regret in being so afraid to fail. So that was, a lot of pressure I put on myself. But looking back, I overdid it.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate your vulnerability in sharing that. I think that is, unfortunately, a lot of people's experience, just, real or perceived, like these feelings that of pressure that high school kids like place on themselves for sports or for academics, for everything. I, had in a lot of similar ways applied some of those pressures to myself on like what I felt like I could achieve academically. I'm sure that there's a million other stories that people could kind of draw those comparisons to. But what I love now is that you're having this come around moment where you're getting to kind of reacquaint yourself with the sport in a new way, which I'm really excited to see. So tell me about coaching. What was that camp that you mentioned? Was that your first experience with coaching, like running in that capacity?
Yeah, to an extent, really. Like actually coaching it. Working at the track shack, I'm advising people all day, every day. But like it's of course not quite the same. So, having a camp experience background just made it easy to work with kids, and now I'm just applying it to running. And so, fortunately, I've had some friends that are far more experienced in running, like help train me for my half marathon and races of the past. So I had a friend that ran at Vandy, and he's just a stud of a runner. He coached me for months leading up to my race. So just kind of, mentality, workouts. It was funny to me because somebody said the other day, like, how do you really coach running? And I kind of get the question from the outside looking in. You're like, don't you just tell people to go run and fast, slow sometimes, and they'll get faster? And yeah, I mean, to an extent, that's it. But so much of it is, the mental game and just how to survive that pain cave. And then there are, all kinds of scientific ways as to, certain workouts you can do, certain heart rates you want to reach for certain amounts of time. And so that's all the kind of like workout training we're doing behind the scenes. But yeah, just as far as raw coaching goes, it's a lot of just firing the kids up. I'm a big galvanizer. And so that's what I'm trying to apply.
I could see that being a real strength for you. When I first saw the announcement, I was like, I can immediately see how this is going to be a real benefit to those kids. I was really excited to just think about, like, if I had you as a coach in that situation. I think that my relationship with running may have been different, and maybe it wouldn't have been. Who's to say for sure? But it was really exciting to think about what that might mean for these kids. So I'm excited to see that for you. And you mentioned the camp piece, that lends to the way that you relate to them. And that is there. Have you seen any kind of application to the way that you're interacting with them that you've learned from camp or other experiences that you've gotten to bring that forward and say, like, oh, I know this from this, and I'm bringing it forward into the way I approach coaching?
Yeah. I would say most certainly the camp background. That's done a lot of things for me. And then even just like, I think it's just, remembering once upon a time, and just the mentality that you have as a teenager, and the distractions that they now have. That's what I'm trying to keep up with nowadays too, is like, for the first time ever, I feel old because they're, using terminology that I don't understand, or they're talking about YouTubers or Instagram. And I'm like, no, don't like, let me be the old guy already. But I'm like, I think my best method of coaching in a way is like, trying to to relate to them, but also like, set this standard of authority, and I'm also 10 years ahead of you. So I understand a little bit more, but at the same time, I'm not here to tell you I'm your authority. I'm not here to boss you around and tell you what you need to do. I'm here to help you achieve what you want to achieve. And so, I try to be understanding of, the fun times they want to have with friends, whether they're going to concerts or, just hanging out late. And I try to encourage them, like, y'all are going to be able to have those times, but just try to learn when to focus. And so really just, I guess, the same way you relate to campers, sometimes they come to you with struggles, talking about hurt feelings or just not being confident or whatever it may be. It's some story for them all. And if you can connect to them and make this I'm your friend, I'm here to help you, while also being, some form of authority. So I'm also here to guide you. That's just the combination that I'm really trying to put together. So experience from camp in the past, experience with, I guess, just younger cousins and stuff. But yeah. And I guess, the ways people have treated me, kind of like what you talk about, just what I'd wished for. Not that Coach Huber wasn't great, not that Coach Jay wasn't great, but they both know that they were older men. Coach Jay was in his 70s, Coach Huber probably in his 40s. And maybe it's different coming from someone that's just a little bit older. They can relate to a little bit more. So, that's really the filler I'm trying to be.
Yeah, 100%. I can definitely see, not in a like a hello fellow kids like kind of way that you're relating to them, but like knowing, like being like just that much closer while still maintaining a sense of like, hey, like I get it. I'm not that far off from what you're experiencing, and like I love what you said about the balance of just the different opportunities of like what it's like to be a kid, staying up late like with your friends or like going to concerts and stuff, but like balancing that with the ability to focus when you need to. I think I could have really benefited from that kind of mindset of not having to feel like I was all in or all out, like knowing that there was an opportunity to do a little bit of both, but just understanding like, all right, now it's time to like really, really settle into these mile repeats or whatever workout it is. But I love to see that. This is kind of an interesting thought for me, is that running is such like an important foundation for other sports. It's huge for conditioning for other sports, big emphasis on, cross training and stuff. Are there ways that you cross train for running through other activities? I think it's interesting. It's an interesting thought for me because it's most often the inverse of like, oh, I want to get better at, football. So I'm going to, run around so that I'm not huffing and puffing, getting to the line and stuff. But are there things that you do outside of running to help your running?
Yeah. So there's more that I should do. But cross training I think is excellent. So I have never been much of a swimmer. I want to say you had a pretty big swimming history, didn't you? Yeah. And so I did swim team for like a month when I was 5 and quit. And I low-key regret that too. But I wish my parents had just like made me do it for 3 or 4 years so I really got the hang of it. But I'd never been much of a swimmer until like 3 months ago. I had another calf injury. I just, running is great, but if you're not going to do all the outside recovery, strength training, stretching, all that kind of stuff, you're bound to get hurt. And even then, sometimes you do it and you get hurt. So I made the, poor decision of neglecting some of that recovery. And so I had an injury. I was like, I got to do something. I've got to stay fit. And so I started getting in the pool, and, I could swim it down and back like 50 meters and I would have to stop and rest and then down and back. And then I was trying to get the breathing right. And, the goggles everything was new to me. So it was just, I was piss poor at it, but I was trying to also remember that like, the same conversation someone could have with me about swimming right now is the same conversation I try to have with a lot of people about running that maybe don't run much. I'm like,
Mhm.
oh, it's easy. You just got to like start trying and doing it. And I'm like, okay, well, yeah, I have a genetic, um, and just experience head start. I've run a lot. So,
Yeah.
I was trying to, just be a baby in the pool, and swam a couple times. I fortunately had a friend that I run with that swam 4 years at Birmingham Southern. So, a collegiate swimmer. He came and was like, adjust your head, do this with your legs, tilt this, don't do that. And then, a few moments later, I was swimming a whole lot better. So I
Nice.
kind of got the hang of that. And while I was injured with that calf injury, swimming was like a new love for me. It was crazy because I had like really never gotten into it. So,
Yeah.
um, I got to a point where I could swim 200 meters at a time, and I'd take a 30-second rest and 200 meters, and I got better and better. But like, it's so funny because this sounds like people talking about running, 10 minutes to me. But like,
Yeah.
it felt good to be a baby and kind of force that same thing that I try to encourage a lot of people with running, just like, be willing to suck at it and try it in little spurts. And so that was awesome. I also, will do some stationary biking, but if I had a real bike, I would love to do that. I just
Sure.
need to save the money to buy a good one. Um, but yeah, so I think cross training is very beneficial, especially like I mentioned earlier too. Like running is great, but if you neglect the extra strength work and stretching that it takes to maintain a strong body that can do it for miles and miles, you're gonna get hurt. So I think cross training is a great way to do that. I
Yeah.
do some, push-ups, pull-ups, core work just on my own at times. And then band work is something that I've really been trying to do a little bit more of. So,
Sure.
it's very like tedious, small exercises, but that just strengthens all those little stabilizer muscles. So I've been trying to use a lot of bands to, either prepare or do a little bit of strength training.
Nice. Yeah. Love that. I couldn't agree more. I think that like getting good at one thing like is probably in a lot of ways going to help you to do some other things. But ultimately, if you want to get better at something, you need to do that thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, dude, I can totally relate to. I got in the pool. I don't know, like I don't have like a I don't have a pool at the gym that I go to now. But like when we were living in Tennessee, I was like, oh, this should be like fairly easy. I have a history of swimming. And I like remember doing like my first like 100, and I was like, I'm gassed right now. Like
Yeah.
I do like just way more than I ever should be. But it was, but yeah, like you said, the embracing that you're going to be bad at it initially, and like taking the steps to like over the course of time, like slowly improve. Um, yeah, I love that. Swimming kind of makes me think of the Olympics. It's like one of the bigger ways that I kind of relate to the Olympics is like when I was young and swimming, that was like key, like Michael Phelps time, and
Mhm.
that to me that had an impact on the way that I related to the sport was because I was watching all of these amazing athletes. Have you seen an impact in the way that your athletes are training, or even in your own training, in watching the Olympics this summer?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Just great timing overall. This is as a kid, I was into the Olympics, but this is as much as I've ever been into it just because, I'm around this world so much now and I keep up with it. And yeah, also just the inspiration it brought the kids, seeing just USA letters getting gold after gold. And what a lot of people don't realize is USA is always great in the Olympics, but this was some of the best running we've had as far as distance running goes for USA. Like for the
Yeah.
1500, getting gold and bronze, that was like unheard of. It was
Hmm.
not expected. I don't think we've ever had two guys medal in the top three, much less we usually don't even have one.
Yeah.
So we had Cole Hawker steal number one, and then Yard Nagoose slipped his way into the third spot. And those are two. I mean, it was just awesome and inspiring. And then yeah, Grant Fisher was a guy who medaled. He got bronze in both the 5K and 10K, which are also events that we don't really medal in that much. And so a lot of people love the 100 meter, the 200 meter, the fast, cool stuff that's fun to watch. But a lot of my athletes are watching the 1500 and the 5K and the 10K, and they're looking at the paces they're going at, and they're just fascinated by it. And
Hmm.
and so it seems like a world that gets a little bit neglected, but this whole world that I live in is thrilled. And so yeah, it was perfect timing. Just to be able to, mention one of their names at practice, mention a Cole Hawker, and talk about how he dug deep for gold, and let's do that same thing too, and stuff like that. Just the kids seemed fired up. I was fired up, and it just, it puts this tough sport in a bright light, and you realize, like,
Mhm.
sometimes you feel so unseen in this world. Like we talked
Yeah.
about, cross country is not always viewed as like the cool sport, and you just feel overshadowed when you're cooking quick miles. Um, and what's funny to me is, like, I feel like once you graduate college, like, this has now become one of the only sports anybody can do competitively. So, like, now all of a sudden at our age, people care about running, and they're like, oh,
Yeah.
wow, you run a lot and stuff. Whereas meanwhile, they're in high school and people, like, don't care at all that they run. They're like, oh, that's
Mhm.
kind of weird that you like that. Give them 10 years and they're going to be superstars in this world. But, like,
Yeah.
it's they were loving the Olympics. It was a good timing.
That's awesome. I kind of think about just from like a spectator standpoint of, like, especially like in high school, like I never felt like there were people coming out to watch the track meets or the cross country meets. It was only the people who were like the families and the athletes who were there to also compete, and they're like, like, all right, like I'm gonna go watch Charlie because I know that he's probably gonna kill it in this heat. But like it was never like a group of like other high schools like painting up for like for the 3200 or something like that. Like it's
Yeah.
just I think maybe the nature of the sport kind of lends to a different relationship in that way. But then seeing the juxtaposition of, like, in the Stade de France, like where like everybody's all filled up and they're all like getting amped up, and like they're going crazy for like people that aren't from their country too. Like they're just like watching like the spectacle of it all.
Mm-hmm.
That
Mm-hmm.
it's cool to see. Though, like you said, like it the I like the thought of later, kind of beyond college, of like there's this dip off of like, oh, now there's maybe more opportunity like for people who are really talented at running, than and it didn't really scale in the same
Yeah.
way in high school or college.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, um, I think the Olympics just was very fun, and then also at the same time, like, I want my athletes to realize, like, they should be delusional with their goals to some extent. Like, it's wonderful when a story pops up about this 5 or 10K runner that was like on the JV team in high school or something, or like, didn't start running until they were 18. Or there's just these stories of, like, this person came out of nowhere, and it just helps me remind the kids that, like, hey, by the way, like, you're 15 or you're 16. Like, you think you aren't good or you're never going to reach this standard, but, like, you have no idea. You have no
Mm-hmm.
idea what you could become. So it's just like pointing fingers at that athlete or that athlete that, like, they very well could have thought they'd be nothing but they decided to put their head down and work hard. And now look. So there's this, like, not that my kids are going to be Olympians, but who's to say they're not? So it's somebody. And so that was another one of those just awesome opportunities to be like, hey, like, stop pretending that there's not 0.01% chance that you could become that. So
That's cool.
It's funny, but yeah, loved writing that. So
yeah, I love that too, because I think that there are several offhand examples for me of like people who hung around in track, and like initially they were just not very good at their event, but they like did it long enough and they worked hard at it, and maybe even went to like summer programs to like try and improve. Like I can remember Henry Barrett was like an example that I think of, like with pole vault, like just I think he started in 7th or 8th grade, and just like I remember thinking, I was like, okay, like I was comparing like maybe ability to like some of the people who I thought of as pretty good. And I was like, okay, like if I were to pick out of the crowd who are the people that are going to college for pole vaulting, I may not pick Henry, but then just over the course of time, he starts like knocking down like these bigger bars and bars. I'm like, okay,
dude.
I think that, and then he ends up going to vault at Bama, and I'm like, wow, it's like it's inspiring to see and think about, and I love, I love what you said there about like there's an opportunity, like you should be a little bit delusional.
Yeah, I think that's a very cool story to bring up. And yeah, it ties right into like this quote that I've been preaching to the team and something that I like try to preach in the mirror to myself. But it's like, so the quote goes, you don't become confident by shouting affirmations in the mirror, but by stacking an undeniable proof of evidence that you are who you say you are.
Mm.
So, take Henry Barrett, for example, like whether he was a great pole vaulter or not to begin in middle school, he didn't just like wake up and just hope to be one and look in the mirror and be like, I really want to be good. He like started stacking evidence. He just like each day was putting in the work. He was going to, that outside coach. He's going to summer programs. He was just practicing like day after day after day. And I don't know if I remember this correctly, but I feel like I remember him staying like late hours, like sometimes like staying extra at practice or something. So
entirely possible.
He was just stacking evidence that he is the pole vaulter he said he wanted to be. And he became that. So that's like kind of what I just tried to preach to my team too. And of course to myself every day of like, if I want to be a good runner, if I want to be a good employee or if you want to be a good father or whatever, friend, you don't just kind of wish for it and just look in the mirror and say like, maybe I'll become that one day. You just find ways to build evidence of that and just start stacking and just, put your chips in the bucket. So as for running, pretty easy because you either run or you don't. And you either run hard and do what you're supposed to do or you don't. And so, stacking evidence there is just, did you run today? Did you not? Did you do what coach said? So that's just kind of keeping my athletes honest, keeping myself honest. But that's, Henry was a great example.
It's I love that. We built this confidence brick by brick. Yeah. It's a great analogy there. I love it. That's awesome. I've kind of, that's all the questions that I've got in that way. Is there anything that's kind of bubbling its way to the surface for you? Anything that you feel like you need to say?
Dude, I feel like I've rambled at you for a little bit where I've gone on tangents, but of course,
very clear through lines.
Good. Bubbling to the surface becomes a question. I saw you jump on Strava recently, and you mentioned, you're kind of getting back into running, and what are the goals and aspirations there? And now let me preface: I have no expectations. I know sometimes people are like, I'm not going to run as fast as you do, and I don't expect that. And of course, there are other people that I look at that run way further and way faster than I do. So there are levels to this. But yeah, just like, is it becoming a hobby or is it just something you want to train for? Or
well, I appreciate you asking. I've gotten to a point in my life where like I want to do cool things and hard things like athletically for the sake of like my children, kind of like seeing that and like kind of hoping that like, oh, like I went to this race where my dad ran and I got to cheer him on and stuff like that. But like, I want to run a marathon before I turn 30. So like it feels really daunting to try and take that on. And when I hear about people our age, like running halves and running fulls and, like training consistently and stuff, I'm like, man, that's a lot. And I hard to try and balance. And like, I'm going to have to settle down at some point and get stricter with like the way that I run. But I'm enjoying just week over week, putting in the consistent effort there. And like, I was like, my wife kind of posited the idea to me. She was like, you should like run a marathon, and like you should do it like before you're 30. I was like, yeah. And then I was in the shower. I was like, is that what I want? But like after a couple hours, I was like, I think that is what I want. And it was a little scary to like realize that I did want that, in fact, but it was exciting too. So, I've been loving like falling in love with running again and just like running around my neighborhood, like clocking my my like 5K a day and like trying to not do the same exact distance and effort each day too. But it's been cool. But yeah, thank you for asking.
Yeah. And that's great to hear. Just to kind of just make it a journey again. And something that my brother and I bounce back and forth all the time is like, the last thing I want is for people to make it like this daily chore. And to some extent it's like it's a hard work thing. So you want to go do the hard work. But at the same time, like, have fun with it. Go be free. Go explore your neighborhood. Some like the details that I notice of that house that's down the street, or the one around the corner, or that cute yard that I love to look at, or the cool porch. Like, you become so much more aware of your surroundings, so much more. You get time to think, and then also what I preach too all the time is like anything. Like, running is so accepting. Anything faster than a walk is technically a run. Like, as long as you're just like moving a little bit faster than a walk, then you're running. And so, yeah, just get out and do that if that's all it takes. Like, you don't have to go 5 or 6 minute miles or anything like that to be a runner. And a runner is someone who goes and moves their feet however long, however far. And so, yeah, that's I'm glad to hear you're finding a way back into it. And it's cool that you mentioned, your daughters. And I guess I want to poke one more question just on like, what do you think what do you think the flip was going from not having children to having children, and how your motivation kind of turns? And I can only imagine, it just has a huge impact on how you want to carry your day-to-day life. At one point you were caring for yourself, and now you're responsible for a lot more. So
it's an awesome question. Like, it changes everything, just in the way that you want to relate to your partner, and the way that you like look around and kind of see like, I should probably like put these dishes away, just because I'm trying to frame a lot of how I carry myself for like, what would I hope for the example that my children have, and say like, all right, well, if you want that as a reality, then like, you need to be the person to do it. So I want them to be equipped to do hard things. I want them to feel like that if they want to pursue, delusional athletic achievement, then I want them to feel free to do that. Because in a lot of ways, I don't think that I felt that way. I felt like I felt fairly mediocre as an athlete. I enjoyed being on the team with people and watching others do really incredible things. I loved getting to watch, Mac McCoy run, that's however fast it's sub 15, like 5Ks and stuff like that. And I was like, wow, that'd be really cool, but it'll never be me. Like, just kind of like, I found myself thinking that way a lot. But now I want them to feel free to pursue those things if that's what they want. And I think that one way that I can do that is showing them that they have a dad that's willing to do hard stuff. Even when it takes some work. And one way it kind of like was solidified for me was that when I was pole vaulting in the street vault, I like was looking over and I would see, and my youngest would like see me jump, and she was like, more. She was doing like the sign language of it. And I was like, there was a little bit more of a flip of there. I was like, yeah, I think I need to show them. I think I need to do hard things, like not really because of me, but like for them, I guess.
Just to kind of ooze some confidence into them. Yeah,
100%.
I love that. That's cool.
Thank you for asking that. That was that was very cool.
Yeah. I just I mean, it's good to see you begin your journey running again. And I feel like so much of that, or just like this fitness idea kicks in, especially when you become a dad and you're setting this tone. And they want to see strong dad who's willing to do hard things, like you said. And so that's who you are to them. So that's cool. Very good to hear.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, love those girls, and they're a big part of why I do this podcast too. Is that I want them to look around and be inspired by a lot of different folks who are, they're dermatologists or they're lawyers or they're astronauts or what or they're runners, like whatever they want to be. So it's awesome. Well, I have a question for you, not from me, but from our previous guest, Chuck Dye. So this is kind of a tradition with the last bit of the show here is that I'll ask the question from Chuck, the previous guest, and then give you the opportunity to do the same to whoever comes after you. So Chuck asked, if you could be an animal anywhere, any animal of your choosing, what would it be? Tell me a little bit about that decision.
Okay. Ooh, that's awesome. If I could be an animal anywhere, a couple of favorite animals come to mind, like a lion or wolf. But at the same time, I feel like life is a little bit harder for them on the hunt all the time. So I almost want to be something that's dominant, like just has it easy. Although we're sitting here preaching hard things.
Yeah.
Okay. Actually, you know what? I'm going to say a killer whale. I think I would be a killer whale.
Yeah.
And it's first because of dominance, just nothing to fear. You are your own, beast. And then also just how beautifully they get to swim through the water and just, being as big as they can and just leap out. And I, of course, I think it would just be so cool to, explore the vast ocean at the speeds they do. So I'm going to say, crazy enough, as much as I like land animals, I'm going to go with a water water animal and say killer whale.
I can totally dig that. I in a lot of ways I equate to like moving through the water that quickly. It has got to feel like flying in some capacity. So like, I think that's a great answer. I'm totally with you there. Well, what's a question that you'd like to ask to our next guest whenever they come around?
Yeah. Once again, this is something I wish I meant to be prepared for. I like this idea, and I want to come up with something good. So, let's see. A good question. I often just like do this on a whim, just for when I'm sitting in a car or at any bored moment. Let's ask, if you had to move to 3 states, and you had to live there for 2 years, it can't be the state you currently live in. You had to move to a different state for 2 years. Which 3 states would they be? So it can be anywhere in that state. But which 3 states would that be? And you can tag why too. But
nice.
I'm sure they'll just mention their hobbies. So if they say California, maybe something along the lines of surfing, or if they say Colorado, maybe they're a mountain head. But 3 states. I always just I'm kind of curious. I mentioned earlier wondering had I moved elsewhere. I'm a Birmingham homebody, so think about it myself often.
I think that's a great question, because I think of that almost in the lines of like, if I hit the lottery, like what would I do? Like it's very imaginative of like when you free yourself up of like, well, if I have to move, then like I know that I'm going to.
Yeah.
And so like where are the places I'm going to go, and you find out pretty quickly like what's important.
Yeah, you're not spending a lifetime there, but you're also not just like there for 3 months. So,
nice.
Yeah,
I like that.
That's just a random.
Yeah.
What a question.
That's a great one. I'm excited to ask that. Well, if you've made it this far in the podcast, drop maybe a map emoji in the comments to let us know that you got here. But Charlie, I don't have anything else. So do you have any parting thoughts before we wrap it up?
I want to say we've covered everything. I have strung you long, so I really appreciate you having me for so long. I think I'm fresh out of questions. So
nice. That's it. Well, I love it, man. Thank you for coming on and taking the time to do this. It's been a pleasure catching up with you, and I'm excited to see the things that you do.
Yeah, dude, this has been awesome. I'm glad I finally gave you a reason to put me on here. We'll talk more about running. I'll keep up with your journey. So yeah, I look forward to our future together, bro.
Awesome, man. We'll We'll talk soon. That is going to conclude episode 39 of When I Was Your Age, and we'll see you in the next one.